Good morning. One of the first things to let you know is that now I'm working for the GCTIO, and the I means that we have precisely combined the CTO and the CIO functions in Telefonica, because precisely we believe that this kind of activities are bringing us to a convergence in the traditional differentiation between the technology and information systems, and we are trying to address this by putting together all of our efforts in making the technology evolve. In fact, one of the first things that we had to do with try to align with our new close colleagues that were coming from the information technology area was precisely aligning in our position with respect to CSM. Well, basically, the idea is to introduce you to what is the purposes and the goals of CSM 1, to be, to show how original we are. We name the different specifications and reports with a number, a serial number, and what is natural is the first one, the one that is dealing with the scenarios in which CSN should be applied, and the ones that are defining precisely the requirements is the first one. So it's CSN1. CSN1, as you can see there, is providing the formal requirements for the architecture, providing the not only the what is important as well is not only the formal requirements, but as well the framework in which to think about which is the architecture and which are the problems to which these solutions should be tailored. And apart from that, there is another particular document that is very much focused, and you can imagine, in something that is the hottest topic, or one of the hottest topics right now in the industry, that is precisely about network slicing, and there is a separate document that is analyzing these influences. And the idea is that CSN1 will be providing these grounds for all these, in general, the whole CSM activity to grow, and in particular these two documents that are essential as the reference. This is basically the mechanism is nothing. I mean, I would not pretend that this is extremely original. In sense, you make people think, starting for a general vision into defining which are the goals and which are the requirements to be satisfied by the different documents. But I would like to remark a couple of things that are important here. One is that, we start from a vision that the CSM is not anything that comes out of the blue. We started discussing about it a long time ago, and has followed a long maturation process in which we part for a vision that was, it requires some long discussions to share something that could be solidified in something like the group. Second is that we're trying, and I mean trying because it's, as you can imagine, it's not that we have hundreds of verticals participating in CSM, but we are trying to not only make this coming from the operators, not only coming from the network service providers, but we are trying to involve as well verticals that will be using this in the future. And the third thing is that we are trying to, and this was part of these long discussions that have to do with the industry vision, we are trying not only to have a long list of use cases and a long list of formal requirements, we are trying to analyze this in a wider scenario, considering not necessarily traditional use cases, but the general framework in which we are moving. That, and this is important as well when Nurit was mentioning POCs, this would provide precisely the framework for what, let's say, we would consider interesting POCs. POCs are a very open framework in which you can bring almost anything that you feel like that will make this, that will address some of the topics that are of interest to CSM, but it's important as well to think that they will be more welcome if they are considering the scenarios that are being defined here in CSN1. Well, what we have so far is that, basically, and as a summary or to highlight the most important thing, right now we are considering 31 scenarios. More than 19 requirements have been already contributed and are being discussed. Well, this is a work in progress, and I would say is hard, and from time to time is even burning work in progress. Discussions are heavy. The kind of limits that you put to whatever you can call end-to-end service management is really challenging, and people is working on this. We are trying to improve it and improve it as fast as we can, and what is important is that, let me remark it, the draft versions are openly available. You can go, have a look, read it, and if you like it, you're welcome to join us to make it evolve. If you like it, you're welcome to start a POC and start trying to apply what is, or to address the requirements and the challenges that are inside that. And if you don't like it, you're welcome to join us and tell us why you don't like it. Even in the case even in the case you don't want to join the group permanently, any feedback and any comments would be extremely welcome. The idea as well has been to, taking into account the number of scenarios, etc., was to grouping them somehow. So it was a conceptual view of the different kind of scenarios we have at hand. Basically, as you can imagine, most of them have to deal, with network slice, and network slice here is about, is in a very wide sense. I would not say, and this is something that is arguable, and many of my colleagues there in the CSN would start raising their hand and say, no, it's not the case. Network slice here is not exactly, we're not following a strict definition according to what the 3GPP has done or whatever. We are thinking about precisely a share of the resources of the network of a mostly virtualized network that you can share, but providing a single infrastructure. So basically, we are looking at in the two cases is basically network slice management has to do to what the network provider has to do to be able to deliver a network slice service to customers. So somehow is according to the TM Forum classification, is a resource-facing service. On the other hand, we are considering as well the network slice as a service, this NSAAS or NSAS or whatever you pronounce it, which is precisely with the idea of a customer requiring and manipulating by their own the network slice, and it's more a customer-facing service. Not, let me insist, not necessarily is a product. It's a service that is offered as a product by the operator, but is something that has to interact with the customer. Finally, there is another grouping that is very much dealing with the internals of automation, and here you can put whatever has to deal with closed loop, analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and anything that is so in fashion in these days. So first one is precisely, and if you look at the diagram on top, is quite, the life cycle is quite straightforward and aligns with the aligned with the general view of how to deal with slice and in general any internal service provisioning. And these scenarios derived from this architecture are related precisely to the internal management of the slice instances and the slice blueprints and how they are managed by the systems in the operator. So if you think it's basically about the requirements that are related, and let me remark this, to the management, are related to about cloning and how the capability of analyzing these the slide descriptors and data once the slice is decommissioned, and the possibility of providing some degree of access to customers once the slice has been provisioned to control this slice. Recently, well, last week I was in the start of a project on a 5G testbed, a pan-European 5G testbed, and precisely one of the things that we decided is to follow this process in how to, when specifying the services to be offered by the testbed. In the case of network of slice network as a service, of in general the network as a service, well, we are here dealing with the challenges relating with capability exposure to customers, and with something that is very important as well, which is full end-to-end across different domains and even across different pure administrative domains among operators. And if you look at the requirements, we are precisely talking about that. It's about that everything has to be automated, that we have to being able to integrate different administrative domains, different, if you like, accounting domains, so different operators collaborating, and so we have the possibility of offering customers a full end-to-end view across the different domain. The challenge in my view here is about precisely about the security part, how you authenticate requests, how you apply authorization policies that are distributed enough on the one hand to make them agile and integrated, but that allow the different operators to have their own, to retain their own autonomy, and but on the other hand, providing users the feeling that they are using a single infrastructure, and how to do proper accounting and proper auditing, because at the end it's not only about, well, no, it's about the two more important things that you have in the network. One is gets paid, because this is a business, and we run on money. And second is about identifying, whenever there is a problem, identifying where the problem, what caused the problem and where the problem is located. So you have to provide a proper cross-domain, integrated end-to-end record of the transactions. And well, the last scenario that, well, the last group of scenarios, in fact, these scenarios are labeled A, B, and C, but I spared you all the detail of the classification. You have enough when talking about CSM1, CSM2, CSM3, and all the like. Is about precisely how you leverage on the data, and you leverage on closed-loop architecture to provide zero-touch service management. Well, you have here the usual is about the data flows, applying machine learning, applying AI, applying analytics, being able to predict the future evolution of the system, or as it is important as well, is to enable CI/CD, so you have a continuous update of the different management elements. We're not talking about the functions, which is part of NFV. We're talking about how the management as well is subject to be properly updated and continuously integrated into the as it evolves. So the scenarios have to do precisely about how the access to data is performed. In that respect, we are as well, we were working, well, I was personally working with other colleagues, among them one of the main promoters were for Deutsche Telekom, precisely about a common data layer and the specification of a common data layer. We submitted it to NGMN, and now it has been is being discussed and adopted by CSM as one of the basis for precisely for this for this data integration. The other idea, which is important as well and touches somehow with the work of other ISGs inside inside Etsy, like for example ENI, is precisely the facilitation of having different mechanisms that support AI, machine learning, data analytics. So we have, there is the possibility of this closed loop. CSM is analyzing the closed loop and how it applies to service management, but we can use, let's say, intelligent black boxes that can be plugged and unplugged in the architecture. Just to conclude and to leave some room for questions, these are the things that have been identified that we are starting to work, and we are seeking for collaboration, in some cases even from other direct collaboration with other groups, for example, in aspects related with security and testing, because we are aware of activities that are very much connected to this, and as Nurit said before, we are not interested at all in reinventing the wheel. Collaborative service management, as I said before, is very much connected with what we are considering in the case of the network slice as a service. Security is essential, and we have the experience, or at least I have personally the experience from NFE, that you had to take into account from the beginning, and even taking into account from the beginning, you run or you identify problems from the very early stages. Testing, which is again something that you have to plan well in advance, because whatever you plan to do, you need to have a good test plan. And well, when it comes to integration and interoperation, POCs are the first step. We believe that soon we will be able to run and demonstrate interoperability tests. Previous experience shows that is even advisable. Even not having a full set of complete and formalized specs, running some early interoperability assessments is something that is quite wise, because it helps you in showing the direction to which you should move the specs. And well, there is a network operator council. There is a group of operators that are trying to identify the most urgent needs, trying to prioritize the work, and the idea is precisely to coordinate this and to have the NOC as an informal steering group that will be analyzing how the technology evolves, which are the most urgent needs, and try to make the group evolve in that direction. And this is, as a conclusion, well, as I said before, we're doing the natural thing. This is an engineering activity, and we are behaving as good engineers, well-behaved engineers. I assume we are good as well, and we are defining the base for this. We are trying to identify requirements, as I said before, in a wider sense. We are trying to define the frameworks in which all the activities has to be validated and has to be demonstrated. And at the end, our idea is that this will be the base as well to show that we are addressing real needs in the industry, and that will, to some extent, set the lines for measuring our success. From my side, this is all. This is where the specification source is. Let me insist, it's open, it's accessible. You can have the latest approved, the latest draft that has been approved by the group. You can have a look there, and you can get a feeling. Go for it, read it, and join us. And join us in all the fun. And that's all. I have 50 seconds for a question. Thank you. Okay, so no questions. Everybody's happy, or not paying attention. So go and read the documents. It's what you have to do.